corridor was very important because it's really like sort of the ghost generator in Allerdale Hall. Every ghost I've created is at the end of a corridor, and it's something that comes from my childhood when if you wanted water in the middle of the night in my grandmother's house, you needed to get up from bed, and the first thing you did on the way to the kitchen or on the way back was to go through a long, long corridor. And I always felt as a kid, when I come back, something's gonna be waiting for me at the end of the corridor.
She was not a shadow, not a trick of the light.
The only thing we don't want is for it to be busy.
No.
It's to be clean. Let's try it again.
Simple. Okay. The Gothic corridor is an incredibly menacing space. The silhouetted outline of the archways is studded with rows of spear-like teeth, so it feels as if the shadows are closing in on any passenger, almost like some sort of torture chamber, and has a strange Gothic beauty to it.
Cut! That was perfect.
I arrived for pre-production and Guillermo took me through the house. And yeah, I was completely struck by it. It was just incredible, like these little knives lining the walls. Yeah, it was pretty amazing to see that.
The corridor is full of neat tricks, and we tailored it to fit Edith. You know, so there's enough to fit the ghost and Edith, but it's a very tight corridor. It's not a normal measure for a corridor. And the other thing that we did, if you watch the movie really attentively, we repeated a wooden pattern on the columns 3-4 times, so the corridor looks out of focus. Because I wanted to create an effect like that, so it's disconcerting, but you don't know why. That was one of the high points.
I was obsessed with that corridor. The teeth, you know, in the corridor are in Lucille's dress.
Yes.
And so the first time I saw the corridor, I thought, oh my God, this is like her physically being connected to the house.
Yes.
Like she's almost birthed from this corridor.
Well, you were like the character that we wanted to be almost blended with the house.
I'm trying to appease Lucille and her anxiety, but I'm also trying to work out why the fuck does she know?
It works for me.
Good. Like giving her that look of like, Lucille, you're weird, and I'm trying to work out why does she know that?
No.
Maybe she sees ghosts like I do.
I'm happy with this.
Yeah, good.
There's a place in the house that I think very carefully Thomas actually avoids, and that's the long corridor. It's not a place where he is ever seen walking.
No.
It's an eminently sort of female space in the house. You know? It's reserved for Edith and for Lucille, and I think it defines Crimson Peak.
The archways seem like the silhouette of a woman.
Yes, that was the idea.
With a bonnet and a greatcoat.
What is curious is the shape of the grave of the mother is the shape of the mother in the corridor.
Yeah.
And the shape of the mother in the corridor is the shape of the corridor in Crimson and the shape of the keyhole that Lucille looks through. It's not that I ascribe any meaning to that, but I love the idea of doing those visual echoes, and absolutely it looks like a woman with a bonnet.
And teeth.
And teeth. It's a bonetta dentata.
In many respects, in any household, the kitchen is the heart of the house. That's absolutely true of the kitchen in Crimson Peak.
Action!
You said you killed the dog.
I left it out there on its own. Thought it would perish in the cold.
Good. You were perfect on the delivery. I think you need to land that thing like it's nitroglycerin.
Okay, good.
When you land, you know?
Yeah.
If you land it strong, bam.
Guillermo and Jessica and myself were choreographing the tea-making scene. We knew that as brother and sister in their old kitchen, it needed to look like we'd lived there for years. We knew where everything was.
It was amazing to work there because everything was practical. So much so that when making tea, you always have to make sure you had a towel to push the kettle away from the fire to make sure you don't burn your hand. So it was a working kitchen, which is great when you're acting because you don't have to think about all those things. You don't have to fake it. You can just do what the character's doing, and one thing follows the other because of the practicality of the set. I felt like you could actually take the scullery set, lift it up, and put it in any house, and with a good paint job, it's ready to go.
On action, we start there, we go to her, we become an over, you know? Then she goes there, we stay here, blah, 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 all the way to Crimson Peak.
What did you say?
Crimson Peak, that's what they call it. The ore and the red clay leach up from the ground and stay in the snow, turns bright red, so Crimson Peak.
Every time we go to that set, there's a big reveal. Either you say Crimson Peak, or you are preparing a tea with your sister and we find out things that we didn't know. What was your impression of working in there?
Probably across the world, the most intimate conversations in any household take place at the kitchen table.
That's right. And that happens here too.
Yeah. And that was the key for me, was realizing that was why the kitchen was significant.
And what I love is probably the room where the elevator is the most evident.
Yeah.
And the fact we never discuss it in the movie, we lost that line, that the elevator was put there when Mother became basically an invalid. And it's sort of something that was the mother, connecting everything from the abandonment of the attic all the way to the heart of the house,
Yes.
which is the kitchen, to the guts of the house, which
Yeah.
is the mines. But I think it would have been nice to keep that line.
All the instruments of torture come from the kitchen.
They do, including Lucille's cooking.
Yes, indeed. Yeah.
It's all a game to you.
So it's working for you.
Too much?
No, never too much. Well, yeah, sometimes. I think the most terrifying thing in the scullery is your cooking. And I suspect Lucille's cooking must have been one of the most terrifying things for Thomas Sharp growing up.
I mean, I wonder too, like, what would they eat? These are these people who are now destitute and grew up probably with people around taking care of the house.
An English cuisine in the 1800s.
Yeah.
Or turn of the century. Jellied eel, spotted dick.
If she knows how to make it.
If she knows how to make it. And cold kidney pie. I mean, God
Disgusting.
knows. Disgusting. But what I love is every time we're in the kitchen, something vital is exposed. And that may come from my love of kitchens.
That's where we all hang out.
And very different.
The clay mines are the keeper of secrets for the Sharp family.
Thomas is dead because of you. You killed him.
It really is the underbelly of the house and of what's been happening there throughout the years.
I kept a little souvenir.
For Mother.
Yeah, that's good.
Does that work?
I like it.
Okay. Because I like having the knife in my hand when I'm giving her a threat.
Yeah. We go to the guts of the house. And like in any good Gothic, be it the monk or be it the Castle of Otranto, whatever you want, in the Gothic, all the secrets are in the cellars.
Lucille, I don't know that she hangs out in the clay mines very much, but I feel like that is where she puts her remembrances.
Her
like,
souvenirs.
Her souvenirs, like she has an instrument that reminds her of her mother.
Yes.
That she keeps tucked away in the clay mines.
Normally what reminds you of your mother is a brush or a picture, but she keeps something else. But I love the way, as the movie progresses, the house bleeds more and more and more and more. And then you come to the very place where ghosts were made. Tom? Yeah? You make it warm. You can make it warm.
Yeah, I can. It was just difficult to get out that time. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Let's take it in to sign the papers. Once you sign this paper, she is dead. I have to go.
One of the first things that Thomas says to Edith when she arrives is never go below this level, never go below the ground floor.
Yeah.
And below the ground floor are the clay mines. And the clay mines were a physical manifestation of the perverse history of Thomas.
Thomas's duty in the dark deeds that happen in the house limits itself to that.
Yes.
To the clay mines.
Yes.
He kind of does the final processing, shall we call it.
Sure.
And I think he avoids going there other than for that.
Yeah, I don't think he likes going down there.
No. Make it really, really a desperate, more visceral climb. She runs straight, you run to get her.
Yep, I stop, watch her go up, and then I go up after her.
Ready and action!
Thomas and Lucille had buried their past below them, and that physically, that's where the skeletons of his ex-wives were buried, encased in vats of clay.
Yeah.
And that somehow he's confronted with his past in a very real way. That's the thing about Guillermo. He finds such beauty in ugliness. The idea of skeletons in a clay mine is actually incredibly gory, but that set was so beautiful to look at. There was a kind of primal beauty about it, that actually nature was simply taking its course.
The shapes of the mines are very Romanesque. Archways, ovals. I wanted them to be made out of several circles that tell you there's a repetition. And if there is a body hidden in one of the baths, there must be other bodies hidden in those baths. It kind of helps you tell the story. The walls are dripping with red clay. Everything is wet and everything is dark and everything is kind of unsettling and womb-like. So it's a very, very intimate but horrifying space in there. Perfect.
I was very happy to leave that set. It was very kind of damp. I don't know whether it's just the feeling because the set is kind of degenerated even more, but it felt quite dark in there.
It's very, very foreboding. It's not somewhere you'd like to be trapped. But there was a strange inverse beauty to that. The tension between the ugly truth of Thomas's ill deeds and the beauty of the design created an extraordinary atmosphere. I mean, these sets are absolutely dazzling. They are temporary constructions of magic that actors are allowed to live inside for a short time, and then they vanish and they're gone. And there's a bittersweet beauty to that.
Very good. Now, there, as you lose support yourself, like
Yeah.
there, exactly.
We emerge into the limbo set from the clay mines.
No, land there.
Could be
In the zone.
slippery.
It is the way of going from the underbelly of the house to freedom.
You look at her, she lands,
She's coming out?
she comes out, and you go like this.
Edith?
In this movie, very purposely and very calculatedly, we pop out in limbo. You know, we go from the darkest set to the lightest set in the house.
Why was it called a limbo?
Well, we call it limbo because we wanted to create a very short fallout, meaning the set is representing a much larger set. It was impossible to fog an exterior because the wind, you can fog for an hour and 2 seconds of wind,
It's gone.
they wipe it. So we knew we were gonna shoot it inside. So we created a white cyclorama, and we needed little things that in the limbo seemed like things in the distance. So we started calling it the limbo set, and it stuck. But it was very tough to shoot in that set. It was.
It was very tough. The fog makes it so claustrophobic, and also the brightness of the light. It was probably some of the most difficult stuff that we did shoot.
Let me do something else. I'll do it.
This, but it's...
That's cool.
Thank you.
Great. Here we go. The experience of walking onto that stage was very disarming because you walk from outside through a fire door into an interior space that feels like it's outside, enveloped in snow and fog. The heart of the space is Thomas's machine, which is buried in snow and silence. There's a terrible sort of sadness to that. The machine was Thomas's dream. It was his key to the future, and it's now come lumbering to a halt.
When Thomas is there is a purity to him, and he stands by his machine.
Yes.
And the machine is such an important ghost in the movie, in a way. I think that there are two ghosts that hover over the movie. One is the inheritance of the family, which is represented by the machine, and the mother.
Yeah.
You know, and I think it's beautiful to see that machine that caused so much grief.
Yeah.
Standing there like the bones of a dinosaur.
Yes.
You know, but
Yeah.
to see Thomas with it is rather beautiful for me. Once she lands, I'll say hi, and you're like pumping yourself up, and then you go for.
Go down.
No, but you're like, what do I do? What do I do?
Okay,
you know?
yeah.
And you turn, and that's when Jill needs to do the
right.
Turn. And then we will see Joseph run really fast in the back. Now turn. Shit, she's gone. Get her! We'll cover this tomorrow, but if you want one more, you'll do it right now. Yes. Absolutely.
Okay.
One more.
The first thing that comes to mind is probably this kind of gas mask thing that I wore for a majority of the days that we were filming in that limbo. It was quite a strange space to be in. It was just entirely white, and you didn't really have much of a sense of where you were in the space. And the scenes were sort of at their highest intensity at that point.
We wanted the two points of view of the movie, the two characters that are most opposite, to end up duking it out and facing each other in nothingness, in a limbo. And this is the part where the dead and the undead and the past and the present all come to one. So very Catholic, I guess, in some ways. What will help a lot is, and also, you know, emotion.
Do you buy it in the other one?
Oh yeah, I completely. Otherwise, I wouldn't print it.
Okay, good. It's interesting that in the limbo set, the three characters completely enveloped in fog is the first and only moment where there are no more secrets.
Yes.
Only the truth.
And I agree with you. And the beauty of it is you stand there in front of Edith, and the gesture of love that happens there is a gesture of love to Thomas, not the perfect Thomas, but
the real Thomas.
The real Thomas.
Yeah.
The essence of Thomas.
Yes.
And I think, for me, is a very moving moment. It's a very moving gesture. There are no more secrets. You are not hiding anything else from her. It's all out in the open, as Lucille says.
It's completely sincere.
Yes. Gothic romance is a very time-honored tradition that skates really close to horror.
Gothic romance was invented as a genre in literature around the end of the 18th century.
It can have the trappings of a horror film or a horror story, but it's ultimately the story of a love affair. It was a literary form that came as a reaction against the rational and the academic. It was crazy, it was exuberant, it was quite violent and sort of lurid. they do not need to be confused with Gothic horror. Gothic horror does fully embrace supernatural as part of the motor narrative, and the Gothic romance has at its core a dark love story.
The first work of Gothic fiction is The Castle of Otranto by Horace Walpole. At the center of the story is a building, a fortress, a castle with dark secrets. The idea of a crumbling relic which houses some sort of supernatural history is something that's completely interwoven into the fabric of Gothic romance.
Allerdale Hall is definitely one of those places that is haunted by the horrible things that have happened within its walls.
But how do you manage this house?
Gothic romance, like many other genres, comes very close to fairy tale, the darkest of fairy tales. Often repeated in the fairy tale, the journey of a young woman into adulthood. You can find it in Alice in Wonderland, or you can find it in The Snow Queen. The youth journeying into adulthood through a rite of passage that involves a journey through darkness.
From Radcliffe to Du Maurier, there is a young woman at the center of it who is curious and open-hearted and really purely innocent, who is somehow taken advantage of by the more cynical aspects of life, but survives.
You're all alone, Edith. All alone.
Edith, she's very strong-willed. Unfortunately, the more she loses, the more it benefits her in a strange way, or sort of builds her character.
This movie is very much her journey from uncertainty to getting her feet under her as a person and as a woman and finding out just exactly what it is she's made of.
Edith learns the living are much scarier and pose a much stronger threat than the dead do. When in fact the dead guide her towards something or away from something that is much more present in reality.
If we're dealing with facets of Gothic romance, this idea of mysterious figures of men, this is very true to the spirit of Gothic romance. What Guillermo does is he draws everybody into that magnetism and then reveals his true hand, and you realize Thomas Sharp is a very complicated man who has a secret, long wished for dream, is he wants to leave. He wants to get out. He wants to leave Allerdale Hall. The house is the center of his torment. He's hurtling towards a kind of a destiny, which is to get out. Edith helps him realize that that's what he needs.
From the mansion house to a lot of the themes of loss and death and tragic love. The whole world is steeped in Gothic romance.
Everything Lucille does, she does for love. Think of a horror film, a scary film where there's so much hate and anger. Hate and anger only come from love. Every emotion has its equal part magnified. So as strong as the vengeance, as the revenge, as the hate, that's how strong the love has to be. And Guillermo creates that balance.
Guillermo del Toro is the primary interpreter of Gothic romance in contemporary cinema. His fingerprint as an artist and his ability essentially to make stories that seem to deal with the supernatural and make them intensely, emotionally real.
You never feel like you're just in a ghost story. You feel like you're telling a story about real people.
The real horror comes from the human heart and the human spirit. That is a different slant I've always had in Devil's Backbone, in Chronos, Pan's Labyrinth, that goes counter to everything you normally see in the horror genre.
The film is set in 1901, which is a very exciting time in modern society.
There's 2 locations for the film. The first half takes place in Buffalo, in America.
Buffalo, it was all about the industrialization of cities. All this new industrial machinery that is starting to be cultivated on the streets. So they really lend to an era of brand new things and big things.
My right edge will be that steam engine.
That's perfect. We tried to make America almost blatantly modern. Automobiles, steam engines, machines. Buffalo at that time was the most electrified city in the world. It's more like you leave this way.
Yes, okay.
Between Tom, Guillermo, Kate, and I, there was such a big talk about color. Color really was the most important thing in the film. It sort of anchored everything that we did.
We talked about buffalo and sort of tobacco tones, and the sulfur gold suffusing the warm stone and the brick. And it works because the world of Buffalo is a world of richness. It's like a cornucopia. There's extreme wealth happening in a new developed world. And that thing of colour and richness and lustrousness and heightened elements, it's all there in the colours.
The Buffalo aspect is all about life, and that's with the picnic. You see a lot of people and the hustle bustle of life. There's the whole sense of general society. It really is a sharp contrast between the two countries.
We are jumping the beat of you turning away and you're looking at her.
I presume you'll be on both?
Yes.
1, 2.
Yeah.
You want me to look away at that
Yes.
point too? All right.
Be on both. All right, let's go right away.
Ghosts. I never imagined that's what you wrote about.
Sharp and Lucille, they're these beautiful, glamorous, dark shadows. Guillermo wanted them to be like ink in the world of Buffalo.
Are you sure about this?
Buffalo was all about golden and classic lighter greens, whereas in Allerdale it was all about darker, more brooding tones.
It really is a world of opposites. We have Buffalo and its tobacco golds, and then we have the world of Allerdale, which is starvation and barrenness.
In England, their world is falling apart.
We detailed the house in a way that gave you the feeling that it was corroding, it was rotting in the middle of that landscape.
The foyer, Guillermo just loved that real teal sort of color. And what we did with that was that all sort of came off Lucille's color in her outfit, and then the fabric was supposed to be on the draperies, and everything we did sort of had that sort of tealy tone to it.
That works for me.
We used colder tones in the house. We painted these cyan blues and greens, and Thomas's suit is this great velvety blue, so it's part of the fabric of the house.
We wanted in the world of Allerdale, Lucille and Thomas to be like chameleons in their world. So in their world, they're blue against the blue of the house, and they are the house.
The interesting thing was that Lucille was supposed to blend into the architecture and come out of the architecture. At certain points, her color would go black and she would disappear.
If you can stop here and look at the mural.
Okay.
The outfit for Edith, she would just completely pop.
Edith sits out in their world. She's the gold against the blue.
Edith is a butterfly. She's sunshine and color and lightness. And Lucille's a dark moth. Dark moths, they're without beauty. And I think Lucille sees herself without beauty.
Guy did this amazing early illustration. Fear was inscribed through it. There's a lot of symbolism in those butterflies. They sort of represent Lucille capturing things and killing things. It was sort of modeled into the furniture that we built, the big butterfly chair on the top, sort of butterfly motif. And it appeared almost like 30 times in that one little motif that Guy had designed. But you really have to close up on it You really get a presence of it when you look at it.
This is your home now. You have nowhere else to go.
A lot slower. The more subtle you are, the better the move.
So you have this blue-black palette and you have this yellowy warm palette. These two worlds meeting, and then between them you have red.
Crimson is the color of blood, and so it helps create a feeling of uncertainty.
It's beautiful. It's like everything's like a stain. It's just amazingly strong imagery.
Lucille's room, her walls are red.
And the butterflies. Oh my God, I love it so much.
Do you want me to take her hand and put it there? No.
Yeah, try that.
Originally, Lucille's room was not as big in the script. We went from a half day in that room to 4 days in that room.
So 1, 2, 3.
As it evolved, red was a color that wanted to be addressed in that room. It was a really well-established color palette that we did not deviate from.
There is a contrast between the cool world of Crimson Peak and the warm world in America. That color language is part of the storytelling.
Guillermo's a really great storyteller. And from an art department point of view, there's no one that loves the art form like he does.
There's a richness of detail crammed in that 2 hours that is beyond any visual design I've made in any movie I've done. You need to be involved in the details, but if you are, you'll find a very rewarding experience. I think it's better to see your hand with the lace.
Yeah.
I love it. I always make sure that we design the wardrobe in a way that allows you to discover something new every time you come closer and closer.
It's an adventure of many layers to work with Guillermo on a project like this. There's the world of colour and all these motifs that are sort of so Guillermo. I love it that you discover all these layers and it's like a forensic exercise, but it's done in a very romantic, painterly way.
We've got 3 stages of train, and it's not for a literal moment walking around, it could just be for a distortion moment.
That really makes sense to do the 3 trains.
Yeah.
There was an approach to the movie overall to have everything seem organic and alive, both in the environments and in the costume design.
It is a darkly romantic piece, and because it is a Gothic horror, the clothes had to also feel weighted in that world. And there's these beautiful sort of soft shadows that come into it and a dreaminess in that.
I said to the designers, we're gonna build the costumes and we're gonna couture the architecture. What this means is we needed to make the construction of the sets tell you something about the dimension of the actors.
When we saw the house and how huge it was about how to make these silhouettes bigger. You know, we were quite timid at the beginning, and then you went, you know what, let's be bolder about it.
Edith, come in.
Allerdale Hall.
Our central character is eminently a modern girl.
Edith's world became the gold. Guillermo always wanted to be the modern girl, trying to become part of a man's world with her writing and things, but also in the romantic side of things, she was like a Millet painting. They had the sort of gold and tobacco tones through it. She literally becomes a sort of symbolic gold that is the wealth Sharp and Lucille desperately need. It's also the gold that's like the canary in the coal mine. The first time we see Edith and her little outfit, it's this modern girl suit, that we call that the buffalo bookworm.
Miss Cushing, you're early.
Just a little.
But then the next big dress we have is the heartbreak dress. And it's just because we all got caught up in the terrible romance and let down of when Cushing prompts Sharp to break her heart. And then she'd go snooping down those corridors and she's kind of like a Nancy Drew, so this dress became the Nancy Drew dress. We had to have meaning to everything, so we create all these stories behind these dresses and we get emotionally involved in them. It was the only way we could make sense of the character arc in terms of costume to help focus this in a Gothic horror world. Flowers became a big motif in Edith's clothes. When Edith falls in love, she blooms and her sleeves become fuller and the colour deepens and riches. It's this openness and loveliness. And then when she starts being poisoned, she becomes frailer and more transparent, like a chrysalis. As the clothing became lighter and more fragile in the house, we chose very fine silks and things.
All the costumes were so incredibly beautiful. Guillermo had me in a lot of bright colours, very flowy and open and butterfly-like. Lucille was more like a moth. He wanted to contrast Edith and Lucille visually in ways that represented their characters.
There is a bit of a metaphor between butterflies and moths, and that's echoed everywhere in the film.
We looked at pleating and things that the Victorians used, sort of antique pleating that felt very organic. It also became a beautiful way to describe our moth and our butterfly in terms of Lucille and Edith.
At home, we have only black moths.
That late 19th century is usually kind of about the full catastrophe. You know, when you look at the basic silhouette, there was very little in it. But it's like all the women of that period went, everything off the floor goes on the dress, kind of. You know, there's lace and there's flowers and there's trim everywhere and all of that. And we kind of went, how do we make this work in this world that's kind of more symbolist in its approach?
What do you think? Does it look the part?
It does.
On the wardrobe, we echo pieces of the architecture of the house. So if you watch Lucille's wardrobe has embroidery that is actually embroidery that mirrors exactly the details in the architecture of the house.
And that's why we ended up making all the decorative elements of those vines, and the acorns on Lucille's dress echo the corridors of thorns. We've tried to make the clothes very sculptural. It's all about the silhouette of them and the sculptural quality, trying to get as much depth in there as possible so that they stand in the space and can answer to the space.
Edith's clothes are all full of light and soft. There's a fluidity to it. Lucille's clothes, it's like the thick velvet. They're worn. It's like her second skin. The clothes come all the way up to the neck. The hair's pulled back very tightly. Lucille likes the feeling of tight corsets and constraint.
Jessica always felt that her wardrobe was like an exoskeleton. It was the thing holding her up. It's almost like the scars on her back have come through in her clothes as well, you know, and we've broken down things where the shoulder blades are and that, so you get that feeling of thinness and bones. I keep thinking of these poor, starved children. It's all about, you know, who are these children and their story and these starved little kids in the attic. That journey comes through in the clothing as well.
We decided early on that the wardrobe of the Sharps should be dated 10 or more years out of fashion. They're using their parents' clothes because they have no money.
Because they live in such a remote place and such an old-fashioned world, they've inherited clothes from previous generations and had to have them resewn. And so that the material is probably more expensive, but it's older, so it's starting to wear a bit and fray at the edges.
They're on the bones of their ass. This is the garment they're wearing. We've tried to minimise it enough to tell our story. You see this in the picnic, and that Lucille's wearing a black dress, and that is in a direct copy of the cyan dress. So we've tried to take exactly the same wardrobe and then shift it into the cyan. We've tried to be really as sparing as we can and as strong as we can with our ideas on that.
I mean, look, even the way he just holds
Yeah,
himself.
no, that's great. If we can do help him a little bit, tiny with a little fluff there.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
We looked at an image of a Caspar David Friedrich painting of a man silhouetted against the sea and his back to us, and Tom looked at it and he said, God, every film I'm on, everybody pulls that picture out, the Caspar David Friedrich, and I go, oh, bloody hell. But it's because we're all responding to that wonderful silhouette of him, and it's all encapsulated in that painting.
Look, I thought you'd love that.
Yeah, great silhouette, like a David Caspar Friedrich.
Good morning, miss. Forgive the interruption.
Sir Thomas Sharp, Baronet.
Even though I'd been working on the world of the film and on the script and on the character in my head, as soon as I put the costume on, I knew who Thomas was. Every single contour of the tailoring has been fitted to my exact proportions, and the waistcoat is very tight, and there's a double bow tie that's around a very stiff collar. It feels very elegant. There's something about the tailoring that it's as if it's keeping my feet more firmly planted, but it's also making me stand straighter and taller. And I find that very enormously helpful in delineating period movement and period manners. You wear the clothes and the clothes do all the work for you.
Oh, hey!
It's a dream version of what Victorian is, as opposed to the reality of it. It's lustrous and there's more of it and it's richer than it would be.
The house needed to have a malignant character. I didn't want to go to an existing building and then trying to light it in a way that made it look evil or rotting or corroded. I wanted a house that was beautiful, that you went, wow, that's gorgeous, and at the same time represented sort of the ghosts of the past.
We strive to make this house feel like the family. And in the same token, the house being flesh and bone like the family that's deteriorating. So it has its own soul.
It's also a house that is done in the Gothic revival style, but its bases, its bones, are medieval. So there are sections of the house that have true Gothic stonework and masonry. And I wanted to tell all that story by saying this is what the house was in the beginning, and then we built upon it with the pain of generation after generation.
I remember I said to Guillermo, so where's the house? Is there a big house in Ontario or something? It's like, no, we're going to build it.
Can we extend this one a little bit more?
One thing that was kind of daunting was, how do you make a house good enough for Guillermo del Toro to shoot in for a month?
I'd rather paint a great texture behind the ghost.
When we first started to look at the blueprint for this is the production design, Guillermo said, look, I actually want to build it because I don't want it to feel like it has no weight and substance.
Our third floor ends about right into here. I kept this open.
Being in the hands of Guillermo and having him explore those nooks and crannies and be our tour guide into that place was just an undeniable opportunity.
And let's put them on the maquette.
Okay.
All right?
No problem.
And I'll be here tomorrow.
Beautiful.
What is left of me.
My early sketches are basically architectural drawings in a scale that I can bump up into models. We can do that. This would be easy to do.
There's not a traditional art department in the beginning because Tom's building models. We need to have the right team there to be able to support him. The choice was to have our scenic artist team to work with Tom, so it allowed us to really work through a lot of the design problems and kind of come up with concepts really efficiently.
No, that's great. All I'm saying is, okay, good. You bring more detail there, and it looks, but it's so destroyed that it looks almost like more.
And we'll tie it in with the bottom of that. That's great. Yeah, that's great.
I love it.
That's great.
So this would be painted.
Yes, sir.
That's fine. And this would be painted. I love it.
What we have here is a model of the Sharp Mansion. We have to construct a set like this in one studio. Every piece removes. Tom was constantly removing pieces. He figured out the three-dimensional space of this set.
I love what you're doing here because that's so smart. We have the remnants of a structure there.
Yes.
And then this, I mean, this tells such a good story from this side. You're right.
I was just trying to give it a twisted history.
No, you're 100% right.
Guillermo was actually planning different shots from looking into this model.
Much better.
So I got rid of the
Yeah.
It's much better. You can see what you're going to get in the model. And if we don't like what we see angle-wise and everything, we change it in the model. It's a lot easier to change than full scale. It might work better if we almost had a full, if we ended up with a lot fuller light.
Why don't we do exactly this, but as a window?
Put that shape in down there?
Exactly like that.
And then open it up, and maybe put a ledge in at the bottom and give it a good wide. That'd be great. Okay.
The model was pretty well defined. Everything we work out, all the wild walls, the finishes, the textures, all that stuff he works out in the model.
I got the elevator in. Check that out.
Wow. That's gorgeous, dude.
Fits good there, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, you look at that.
It's just such a great visual tool for production. The craftsmen really benefit from it. They all know exactly what it's going to look like when they're finished.
The house construction took from October 2013 to February 2014. We had a 3-story set. It was just shy of the rafters at 60 feet.
It was incredible. It did feel like it came from filmmaking from a time gone by where they would really go for it and build these incredible sets.
By using steel, we were able to have more flexibility to decide where we wanted to wild walls as we developed things. So what that allowed us to do was to be able to walk the set as it was being built, knowing that we had more freedom to choose those moments where we needed the walls to wild.
We telescope the set. The entrance is the narrowest, then the foyer is a little wider, and the library at the end is the widest of the sets. It gives you the illusion that you're in a bigger set than you are.
You could have this seamless connection with all of the rooms in the house, and you could really feel the whole scope of the house. There's huge details in all of those sets, so it's being able to take all those components, being able to develop them at the same time or in tandem with different teams of set designers and construction teams building all of these things at the same time. That was the challenge, definitely, with that set, to be able to get it all put together and have it complete and ready to shoot.
We stayed really, really true to form to find those key elements within that set that were perfectly Victorian.
Everything is anchored in the period, but just in ideas. And a lot of the different research we'd come up with were a little more neo-Gothic. It was around the same period.
I think that one, Shane, breaks the window.
Okay.
The
One
square.
completely gone, just completely open.
Just the window.
And just nothing there.
Nothing.
Okay, can you do that?
We strive to have a lot of architecture that came down in points everywhere to feel like it's sagging. And through the research, when I saw this type of ceiling, I thought it would be fantastic if we're going to see the ceilings. And early on, we decided that we would see every ceiling. In the bedroom, it's kind of the inside top of a jewel box. Since we were looking up a lot through all the staircases, you need those underneath to pop. It was just a fun thing to do, and luckily we have a DP and a director that really wanted to see ceilings. That's kind of rare.
I'm going to bring this in for you. It's a round table, possibly for the center. Yeah, it's got a nice leather inlay, but I want you to see the table.
I like it.
I show everything to Guillermo first, like every single piece of furniture, every single idea that I have gets run through Guillermo.
And this wood is good.
This color?
This wood is fine.
Okay.
That one's fine, that one's fine. That's a little too light, too hungry.
Guillermo just really knows exactly what he likes and what he doesn't like, and it triggers ideas for him too. So it's very important that you show him every single piece along the way so that it registers in his head and he knows exactly where he is when he walks into that set.
We're gonna put a little more under there.
Yeah, they had to do the box lights So this is coming back here. I've got some really great upholstered chairs coming in. It's gonna be beautiful.
You're doing an amazing job.
Every time you came to him with an idea, he would reference something. So when it came to wallpaper, he wanted the Bradbury and Bradbury wallpaper. So he would always come up with a style that he wanted.
We can stain the leather in the pattern of a moth, like a moth wing, and that'll be very, very creepy.
We custom designed everything for the house. You know, if there were certain things we liked in a lot of pieces in research, then, you know, when we sat down to do it, we kind of incorporated in the best of. It's an impression of what we saw in the research, but we kind of reinvented it and twisted it. We played around with that a lot. I wanted the feeling when you walked in the door, you weren't sure yet. We purposely kept the vestibule a little more cleaner. You'll notice it's a cut stone. Well, we start losing the cut stone as we come in, and it's not near as nice anymore. We really did that on purpose.
We tried to detail the house in a way that gave you the feeling that it was a monster, that it was corroding. The walls ooze and are peeling away.
If this is our sample of the way the ooze sort of looks dried on the wall.
You know, so the clay is the blood in our movie. We see it weeping everywhere, it's seeping up through the floors, it's rot. So down in the clay mines, that's the source of that.
We're setting it up in the house with the cracks and all that. So by the time you get down here, it's the membrane of the house.
Yeah. So a lot of drippage of blood and the blood clay. The cellar feels very much like a rotting womb. Very, very much like the belly of the beast.
The clay mine was an interesting set because it was the first set that we developed. That was the very first one that Tom built a model of, and we had our team work on and get all the finishes figured out.
Our timeline was approximately 6 weeks to create this in its full scale. Everybody who looked at the model knew what they had to do in order to achieve this. And that allowed the construction department to create the structure, which we attached all our tiles to. We actually cast these in sheets. So it looks like real tile, but it's very cheap plaster. This has to be a bulletproof set. There's going to be lots of crew traffic in here. We have water running in this set. We have our ooze in these pools, which are waterproof. These troughs, waterproof. The floor is waterproof. And it's very, very durable. Guillermo is very specific that he does not want to be held up at all with sets that deteriorate while he's shooting them.
There's a real brooding presence to that house. It really came together in a lot of ways. You know, there was so much done early on that really made it that special.
The house has this extraordinary beauty of decline. It's an amazing piece of work by many, many people. As an actor, it's a privilege because your imagination has to supply nothing. It's all there. Every prop, every cushion, every carpet, every candlestick.
Amazing.
Every day you walked into that set, it felt like a real place. Every other day the dust settled, it felt more and more important.
This is officially the most beautiful set I've ever worked in.
There have been guests in here, and we've had people come through, and some people are kind of daunted by it. We did something right, I think.
Hello, everybody. I am about to take you inside the residence of Sir Thomas and Lady Lucille Sharp. What you see here will be gone tomorrow, so this is the last chance I get to see it. This is the biggest and most extraordinary set I have ever seen in my entire life.
Lucille?
It goes up 3 or 4 stories, and it's made with the most intense detail I've ever seen. You can see the clay starting to seep through the walls here. Underneath here is where the floorboards can be lifted up and replaced and where they put essentially the kind of brown crimson paint when I stepped on a floorboard. As Guillermo calls it, the ooze would spill onto the floor to give the impression that the house is in fact sinking into the ground. This staircase leads up to Thomas's bedroom on the left. The attic workshop is up there. This is the entrance to the kitchen and the scullery. And if you look on top of the archway here, you'll see the family motto, which says Mors Vincit Omnia, which means death conquers all. Of course, it should say Amor Vincit Omnia, which is love conquers all, but we're making a horror film. When you go through there, you get into the kitchen and the scullery, which is where we keep the tea with the poison in it, and also where the elevator is.
1, 2, 3, 4. You need to go through the 4 one.
Okay. So it could be like, ah!
What we can do, yeah.
Do that
Just go like this. Like really strong, and then you do this.
And then drop it. Okay, so just know that your knife is gonna fall. Yeah.
Should we go through to the library? Let's go to the library. What a good idea. Up on the, what would be termed a mezzanine in contemporary parlance, is a desk area where Edith reads letters and basically disseminates the evidence of what's been going on in the house.
Action!
This is the fireplace, which is looking a little bit lonely now, but in its splendor, it looks amazing, especially when the fire is on and when the house breathes. Essentially, when the house is possessed of its spirits, the fire tends to brighten and flare. Let me show you this end of the library.
This is, I think, my favorite room in the house. Mine too.
So beautiful. Very nice. Let's go one more. Yeah, very nice.
Mother played the piano sometimes. We'd hear her through the floor. Mother.
I can introduce you, Lady Beatrice Sharp, who is possibly the most terrifying woman I've ever seen represented in painting.
I would lower her like 1.5 feet, but it's amazing.
Yeah, she's beautiful. The artist did a good job.
Really good job.
You can see she has the ring on her finger. And if you just look at her face, you'll see why we're so very, very afraid of her. Let's go upstairs. As we come up the stairs, this particular landing is of a very special fascination for me because I'm nerdy about these things. Behind these portraits, there are cracks in the plastering. It's very, very faint and you'd never know it because of the picture in front of it, but actually it spells a word, the way the plaster has been cracked. What they've done is they put carpet behind the plaster and then plastered over the walls and then punched the carpet, which has cracked the plaster. And somehow, behind these pictures, they have managed to etch a word into the walls, and the word simply reads, fear. See how lavish and opulent this set already is. It goes through there, into that side. It goes all the way around. There's a point in the film where Lucille pushes Edith from this balcony. And she falls to the floor. And we shot it all live. We shot it with, we had a stunt team and a wire rig and immaculate stunt women.
Without moving the crane, action.
That's delightful.
One. Okay?
Jessica and Mia shot their stuff up there, and I was on this landing here watching it all go down.
It would make you jump. It's really shocking. Like, I know there are the three others, but this is the most violent thing I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Don't do it, Lucille! Someone's at the door!
The wires were coming through the ceiling. It was one of the most extraordinary stunts I've ever seen because Mia did an acrobatic fall, flipped over and landed where the arrow is on the floor.
3, 2, 1, action!
It was fascinating because when we came into the house for the first time, we basically started from the ground up. So we would shoot all the scenes on the ground floor.
We'll do it!
Oh, right, excellent.
Then we'd come upstairs, shoot the stuff on the landings, and slowly work our way through the house. We've been living in this house for, I guess, about 3 weeks. 3 weeks in Crimson Peak, 3 weeks in a haunted house. It's the most dazzling piece of production design I've ever seen in my life. This is Allerdale Hall, this is Crimson Peak, for the last time you'll ever see it.
Ghosts. You have no idea what they do.
The ghosts are really beautiful. The same way Pan's Labyrinth, the monsters were so heart-wrenching, and Guillermo has a story for each of them.
Tell me what you want from me. They have come from his world, his imagination. They're very much his style of ghosts.
Thomas!
There is something singular and unique about his vision. The idea that people have demons of their past which manifest as ghosts.
What I want with Crimson is to create the ghost story equivalent of Pan's Labyrinth, meaning the combination of several genres and the fact that we are packing the punch of a traditional ghost story, all the scares, all the spookiness, all that power, with the class and the beauty of a classic.
When Guillermo told us that the ghost would be red like the mud on the factory, it's like, what? Red ghost? This is something that we never seen, so that's really cool to do because it's like something that will give the movie like a very high contrast.
We knew the ghosts were going to be the only red element in the film because the corpses are tossed in the clay after murder. I thought that would be an incredibly shocking and new way to proceed.
I saw some of the designs and I love the bringing in of the clay coloring and the red ghosts, these specters being a tangible connection to this house.
Are the eyes looking this way?
Like that. We are distorting the human features, and the clue comes from the corpses that were buried in the bog in medieval times and came out shriveled and shrunken and flattened. They are not decomposing, rotting corpses. They are corpses that have a lot of humanity in them.
Thomas, I saw a woman!
As if their facial features have been distorted by the emotional torment. The idea that the jaw of one of the ghosts has been dislocated to such an extent that the mouth is open wider than would be humanly possible.
And there's some human element to them, and you can see their ribs and their skin is sort of sagging, or their eyes are kind of displaced, or their jaw is pushed out of place. It just sort of makes it all the more like viscerally uncomfortable.
We present Thomas and Lucille's mother. At the end of a long, long bathroom in a white porcelain tub full of blood with a cleaver sticking out of her head, and out rises of the red liquid a completely red ghost.
I love that the ghosts are actually actors. What they can do with their bodies is really spectacular. They're incredible with movement.
Keep it all. That is good. Keep your head straight. Always straight like that. Very good. Like that. Never don't separate the arms that much. Keep them always close to the body. Yeah. Okay. We will make the movements of these corpses very, very much stylized, like a dancer. When you get off, rather than just the sinewy movement, if you can add a little bit of like a shudders. Yes, okay. Like you're not that much in control. Okay. You can do all the sinewy moves of like shaking a little bit. Yeah. That would be great. The idea was for me that the ghosts should be physically there. ¿Así?
So you don't want to be where I sense something.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so here. Okay.
They should interact with the walls and the floor as if the floor and the walls were liquid. That can touch you, can turn a doorknob. But they need to be walking down the corridor, because that is what will make them really, really strong. Finally, the last ghost to make an appearance in the film is Thomas. I think the eyes are a little too like Santi, the purple around. Yeah. So maybe dial it down a little bit. Mm-hmm. The cracks, you may want to go to a deep brown, but not to a black.
Okay. Okay.
And out of the mist comes a completely white ghost with one injury in his cheek. And the blood has been congealed at a high-speed rate coming out of the wound. And it's a shocking and beautiful ghost that will have the most shock because we know who he was.
There once was a man called Thomas Sharp, and he was a ghost in the picture by Guillermo del Toro.
I've never seen ghosts look like this before. I've never seen them designed in this way.
It feels real to you, just having computer-generated objects. You're never gonna have the fear of being in the room with that real thing, because on a subconscious level, you're gonna know that it's a computer.
The more human an image of a ghost is, the scarier it is, because the more we can relate to it as something that we could have been. They are based on us as human beings, and then they're just sort of abbreviated in a horrifying way.
Ghosts are real. This much I know.